people talk to the 911 dispatcher on that phone, which drew a lot more questions. Even though they tried to clarify, it became a little bit more confusing as to why those roommates would call friends before calling 911. Well, I actually sat down in an interview with the PIO of the Idaho State Police today, Aaron Snell, and this is what he said about that. Does it concern you that they called friends before calling 911?
So, I think really we have to take a step back, right? And again, talking about going down a whole rabbit hole and not looking at the criteria, it initially came in as a medical call. So, based on that, the roommates believed apparently that the roommate there was some sort of medical emergency. So that's what the initial call came in. When the officers arrived, obviously that changed, and so if we try and pick what we want to look at, then I think we'll miss the other information.
Interesting point. He goes on. I ask him, are you worried about contaminating the scene? He says he has his faith and trust in his crime scene investigators, those that responded to the scene, to make sure that will not happen.
So let's try to paint the picture here and the timeline of this. It's still not 100% clear, and obviously that might be on purpose by them, but there's other people there when that call for medical assistance is made. Is it clear the circumstances under which the friends showed up? Did they show up knowing there was a problem, or did they show up just because they were showing up? Like maybe the girls downstairs or young women downstairs woke up and called their friend, said, hey, what do you want to do today? Or they just showed up because they show up on Sunday, maybe to go to breakfast, brunch, whatever. Is that part clear yet?
Right. That part's not clear, and the only thing that we know is this, what they said in this press release, that they summoned friends because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out. What they said in this press release, that they summoned friends because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out. So it sounds like, based on this, that they called friends to help them with the second floor victim who they thought had passed out, Vinny. But that's all we're getting as of right now.
That's there's a lot to unpack here. All right, Chanley Painter's with us, folks, and we're doing this all night for the next 2 hours, plus our breaking news out of Georgia. Someone wakes up in the morning, you don't expect to find your roommate stabbed to death, or 4 of your roommates stabbed to death, especially since you slept through the night and you didn't hear anything. Is it possible that they wouldn't perceive what was actually in front of them?
I think there is something fishy with those 2 survivors. First of all, they were apparently on the first floor, and the attacker or attackers went up to the second and third floor, and so in other words, they would have had to have passed the rooms where. Well,
not necessarily. Depends where you enter. It's a strange house. There's a sliding door on that second level that we're going to talk about more tonight. But
yes, okay. But the police, people have been describing this as incredibly the worst bloody, or the bloodiest scene that I've ever seen. They've been describing this the scene of the 4 victims as being so bloody. So it doesn't really make sense to me that that this person would have thought that the person was just unconscious. And even if they did, why do you call your friends instead of calling for medical help, calling 911 right away?
Jason Jensen, your thoughts about this issue, because this is significant. This is where the investigation actually begins, with this first call and the first people to notice the victims of the case.
Right. Well, I've seen plenty of cases where there was an anterior injury where they then landed on their back, and so they bled into their chest cavity rather than externally. So if the body was lying in that scenario, then it's entirely possible that they didn't see a large volume of blood and assumed that they were laying in the hallway like they passed out. So unless we know the exact situation of the victim, how they were, laid out in the scene, we can just assume there's nothing too nefarious about that. There's something that did not trigger a response to law enforcement about that. Otherwise, they would have investigated the roommates a little bit more thoroughly, or the friends. I think it just happened to be one where these are untrained college students, and they didn't realize what they were looking at when they saw somebody non-responsive to some kind of, attempts to wake them up.
Okay.
Hello. How are you?
Anything you could update? Why'd you block off more of the road, by the way?
Just looking at a little more area, thoroughness. Hello. Looking at a little more area, thoroughness.
There's a look at some of the investigators at the scene.